Back to the channel. Today we're going to unravel some incredibly complex events in Genoa. Rumors are circulating around the Newman family, but what's the truth? In this video, I'll summarize the plot points that will be revealed in the next episode. Stay tuned to see what happens. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today is a beautiful day to dive into the absolute madness happening in Genoa City. We have so much to unpack, and honestly, we are just exhausted trying to keep up with all these twists. But we love it, right? Let's jump right into the latest drama. So let's talk about the absolute disaster that is the Abbott family right now. I mean, honestly, what a complete and utter mess. We all know Jack Abbott and Kyle Abbott have been desperately trying to save Diane Jenkins Abbott from the terrifying clutches of Patty Williams and Dr. Lawrence Markham. And it has been a total nightmare from start to finish. A complete and utter nightmare. A few episodes ago, Patty overheard Jack and Kyle talking. She realized Jack's romance with her was totally fake, a complete sham. So she tipped off Dr. Markham, and they moved Diane. And you would really truly think that after that massive failure, Jack and Kyle would sit down, take a breath, and come up with a smart, calculated plan. But no, of course not. Because this is our beloved show, and nobody ever does the smart thing, especially not Kyle Abbott. And let's just zoom out for a second and look at Kyle's state of mind. Kyle is panicking. He is absolutely losing his mind. And honestly, I kind of get it. I really do. I mean, maybe I'm being too harsh on him sometimes, but you have to remember his deeply traumatic history. Diane faked her own death back in 2011. She used a morgue body, she got Deacon Sharp to help her, and she let her own son mourn her for a decade. A whole decade. So the trauma there is deep. It is so incredibly deep and unresolved. Kyle has this intense, overwhelming fear of losing his mother again. He just got her back. He just rebuilt his relationship with her. And now she is missing, held hostage by a literal psychopath and a shady doctor. So Kyle is acting purely on raw emotion. He is not thinking straight. He is entirely driven by this frantic, desperate need to save his mom before she disappears forever. But Jack knows better. Jack is older. He's been around the block. He's dealt with Patty's specific brand of crazy more times than any human being ever should. Remember the yacht? Remember Victor using Patty to drug and compromise Jack? Yeah, Jack remembers every terrifying second of it. Jack knows exactly how dangerous Patty Williams is. So Jack sits Kyle down and gives him a very stern, very serious warning. He tells Kyle to back off. He warns him very explicitly not to do anything reckless. Jack knows that if they push too hard, Patty will snap. Patty is a ticking time bomb. And Jack knows you don't play games with a ticking time bomb. But does Kyle listen? Of course he doesn't. When has Kyle ever listened when he gets that stubborn, determined look in his eye? So Kyle decides to go rogue. He just takes matters into his own hands. He is so impatient, so anxious, that he completely ignores Jack's warning. What was he thinking? Who actually believes this is going to end well? Nobody. Literally nobody watching at home thought this was a good idea. Kyle drives out to Dr. Markham's compound all by himself. He doesn't have backup. He doesn't have a solid plan. He just has this desperate need to be the action hero. He starts sneaking around the property. And the writers actually gave us a pretty tense sequence here. Kyle is creeping through the bushes, trying to stay out of sight, listening to the rustling leaves. He manages to bypass the outer security layers. For a second, just for a split second, you almost believe he might actually pull this off. He's sneaking, he's looking through windows, he's trying to find any sign of Diane. But then disaster strikes. Because of course it does. Kyle makes a tiny, stupid mistake. He trips up. He accidentally triggers a small security alarm. And the moment that alarm goes off, your heart just sinks. You know, it's over. The stealth mission is completely blown. The loud blaring noise shatters the silence, and all of Kyle's clumsy sneaking around is suddenly exposed. It's such a classic soap opera trope, the tripped alarm, but it still gets you every single time. You just want to yell at the screen, Kyle, what are you doing? It was so avoidable. If he had just waited, if he had just listened to his father, but no, he had to play the hero. And then out of the shadows steps Patty Williams. Or maybe it was Dr. Markham who appeared first. My notes are a bit blurry on the exact blocking of the scene, but let's be real. It's Patty who brings the real terror. Patty catches him red-handed, and she is not happy. She is furious. Patty has a gun. Let me repeat that. Patty Williams is armed and pointing a weapon at Jack Abbott's son. The tension is just off the charts. Patty is looking at Kyle with this wild, unhinged look in her eyes. You can see all the betrayal she feels about Jack projecting right onto Kyle. She hates Diane. She feels betrayed by Jack's fake romance. And now here is Kyle sneaking around her territory, trying to ruin her twisted plans. It is a full-blown armed standoff. And Patty is just ranting. She is completely unpredictable. You guys know how she gets. 1 second she's talking sweet. The next she is screaming and threatening to pull the trigger. She's probably telling Kyle how much his father hurt her, how Diane deserves to be locked away forever. Kyle is frozen. He is staring down the barrel of a gun held by a woman who has a history of locking people in cabins and losing her grip on reality. He realizes way too late that his dad was right. He should not have come here. He is completely trapped, and he has just made everything 10 times worse. He thought he was saving the day, but he just handed Patty the ultimate victory. Because of Kyle's reckless, idiotic move, the absolute worst-case scenario happens. Patty and Doctor Markham realize that this location is no longer safe. They know Jack and Kyle are closing in and are willing to break the law to get in. So what do? They move Diane again. They pack her up and drag her off to an even more secret, more remote location. And Diane, poor Diane, is still brainwashed. She probably believes Markham when he tells her that Kyle is the bad guy, that her family is trying to hurt her, and that he is protecting her. It is just so tragic. Diane is being dragged further into the darkness, further away from any hope of rescue, all because Kyle couldn't just wait and follow a calculated plan. Now the search is completely ruined. It is exponentially harder to find Diane now. The Abbotts had a lead. They knew roughly where Markham was operating, but now they have absolutely nothing. The trail has gone completely cold. Patty has outsmarted them again, simply because Kyle handed her the opportunity on a silver platter. It's incredibly frustrating to watch as a fan. You invest all this time in a rescue storyline. You watch Jack sacrifice his dignity to fake a romance with Patty, and then a character does something so dumb that it resets the entire plot back to zero. It makes you wonder why we even root for these guys sometimes. And then we get to Jack. Oh, man, Jack. When Jack gets the news about what Kyle did, the fallout is just explosive. Jack is facing the horrific consequences of his son's recklessness. He is absolutely furious. I don't think I've seen Jack this angry at Kyle in a long, long time. But underneath the anger, there is just sheer, unadulterated terror. Jack knows that Patty is unhinged. He knows that by Kyle forcing her hand, Patty might just decide to get rid of Diane permanently. Jack is staring down the barrel of losing his wife, and he knows it is entirely his son's fault. It is a bitter, bitter pill to swallow. The dynamic between Jack and Kyle is going to be so damaged by this. Jack warned him. He specifically told him not to do this. And Kyle's arrogance, his belief that he could just play action hero, has jeopardized everything. Jack has to clean up this massive mess, but he doesn't even know where to start. He is standing in the Abbott mansion, probably pouring himself a drink, just agonizing over the fact that Diane is out there, scared, brainwashed, and completely hidden from them. And Kyle has to live with the guilt. The guilt is going to eat Kyle alive. He wanted to save his mom, but he practically handed her over to the wolves. Honestly, looking at the bigger picture, the writers are really dragging this out. Fans on social media are already complaining that the Diane kidnapping plot is taking too long. But this twist actually adds some really good, messy family drama. It pits Jack against Kyle. It shows the flaws in both of them. Jack thinks he can control Patty with his fake romance, which was a terrible idea to begin with. Kyle thinks he can just sneak into a compound like a ninja. They are both so arrogant, and now they are both paying the price. But you have to wonder, how much more can Diane take? She's locked away, being fed lies by Markham, and her family keeps failing her over and over again. So what happens next? How do they even begin to find Diane now? Are they going to have to beg Victor Newman for help? Because, let's be real, Victor has the resources to track anyone down. But Jack would rather eat glass than ask Victor for help right now, especially after everything Victor did with Patty in the first place. Or maybe Phyllis will get involved? Phyllis has been dealing with her own mess with Matt Clark in Arabesque, but she's resourceful. Someone needs to step up, because Jack and Kyle are just failing spectacularly right now. They need a miracle, or they need a better private investigator. It's just exhausting. I'm sitting here typing this, and I'm just so tired of seeing the Abbotts lose, but at the same time, I can't look away. I need to know where Patty took Diane. I need to know if Kyle is going to face any real consequences for basically ruining the rescue mission. Will Diane ever forgive Jack and Kyle when she finally gets her memory back and realizes how badly they bungled this? If she ever gets her memory back,